Hey everyone, if you are just finding this video, I just finished recording 2 episodes of my story. I wanted to share my vulnerability, share some of my low points. There are only some, but they were the main ones that were the catalyst for me realizing that I needed to do something very different about my life. I'll put the links to those in the description below. And of course, I can't leave you there because it was a bit gloomy. I wanted to let you know that it was a long journey ahead, but one that I actually wouldn't change for anything. I learnt so much about myself, things that I didn't want to know about myself, but that's what shadow work is, right? Shadow work is literally diving into all the gooey, messy stuff that you've packed away your entire life and avoided and hidden away and said, I don't want anybody to see that about me or see that version of me or see that personality. And or you've been told by parents, society, people that you've had mentor you in some way, people you've looked up to, or just been, through magazines and advertising and marketing. I mean, the rubbish that I used to watch when I was younger and completely take in. And I think that tells you over time what parts of your character the world would prefer not to see. And women particularly, I've grown up through the 70s, 80s, 90s, and there was still a very large theme for women to just smile, just be pretty, just, have big hair and wear the right clothes. And, it's all about staying quiet and don't be heard. And I was told that repeatedly growing up. And obviously that means that I have to shut down parts of myself, which then become my shadow self. And I had learnt for many, many, many years to shut all those parts down and to keep them quiet. And what happens, because I thought I was totally in control, absolute, I am definitely a recovering control freak here. And I thought that staying in control of things was what kept me safe, right? I'm in control. I will, manage everything, and that's what keeps me safe. And I lived thinking that way and being in charge of myself and the people around me and making sure that that's how my stress level stayed, manageable, was that all the parts, all the things around me were controlled, and I knew exactly where everything went and what time things were happening, and that idea that you think you're in control. And these are the things that actually are really not helping the nervous system. So it's this idea that we're in control. It's the idea that we don't need help with our stuff. It's the idea that maybe if I just numb that out and alcohol, drugs, smoking, all the things that kind of tell us that we're numbing out whatever that stress level is, all those kinds of things and habits. Or even if you're, stressfully going to the gym once or twice or 3 times a day. And I did that as well, thinking that that was a healthy alternative. That if I just constantly exert my energy into that mindset, that I'll be better, I'll look better, I'll keep people happier, I'll keep others around me looking like I know what I'm doing. It's all a facade. It's all just more masks that we put on to tell the world we're doing fine. I know what I'm doing. I'm in control. It's all happening for me. When in fact, you're just a mess on the inside. You're literally just waiting to explode. And that's definitely where I had built myself to the point where I couldn't manage anything anymore. And as I said in my previous story of what got me to that breaking point was a high level of emotions that I couldn't cope with anymore. I couldn't deal with any more grief. I couldn't deal with any more loss. I couldn't deal with any more abandonment, the feeling of unworthiness, the really low vibrational depression, the apathy. I couldn't deal with any of that anymore. And I needed to do something about it, and I needed help. And it was going to take a lot to get me to reach out for help, because it just wasn't a part of who I was. I wasn't raised to ask for help. I was raised to do everything on my own, to deal with stuff. And so I say that because I feel like there is an entire generation of us out there who believe that it's a badge of honor to be able to say, I made it, I did it myself. Because I totally believe that. I mean, if there would have been a trophy for it, I definitely would have put my hand up and wanted 1 or 2 or 3. But it's heading in the wrong direction. I mean, what I have learned is that humans aren't created to do things on their own. Humans are meant to be in a community. We're meant to have a community of people that will help us with all things, and that we help each other. That we all have different skills, that we all have different ways of helping and supporting each other. I know we definitely have a bit of a ways to go before we get back to that. It is starting to happen, but it's by each individual realizing that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to reach out and say, I need to start looking at the parts of myself that I have hidden away because they are causing anxiety for me, or they are causing depression for me, or they are causing whatever material ailment, because that's also what happens. That energy of that trapped shadow version of you that you have stuck into the cupboard or the basement or shoved into a horrible little corner somewhere and never let the light shine on it, will eventually, because energy doesn't just disappear, it will eventually evolve and become its own entity that then causes more problems. And that will either come out as a physical ailment, or it will come out archetypally in ways that I know definitely happened for me. When I would drink, my personality would change, just anger, depression, in a whole range of ways, because I had so many things tucked away in my shadow. But the next most important step for me, from where I was at the end of that part of the story that I finished, was seeking help. And it was seeking help for me from someone who I knew could see past all the physical stuff. Someone I had already worked with in the energetic space, because that was already a thing for me that I knew and understood. I didn't understand in my own awareness the depths of it yet. I still had so much to learn. But I went there knowing that I needed help a whole range of ways, not just talk therapy. Now, talk therapy is amazing. I am a social worker myself, and I highly recommend talk therapy in either having someone that you know and trust that you can always talk to, and also professional people if it's situations where you need to talk through traumas that have happened or not understanding what to do next and what next steps. However, it is not the only thing. We always need to have help on an energetic level and on a spiritual level. And the reason I say that is because for some people who struggle with the idea of this whole other realm that is the unseen world, are usually the people who are having the most problems with it. And what I was lucky enough to experience through the last 8 years or whatever it has been now, that I was able to witness things that I could never deny. I was able to experience things that nobody could ever tell me was anything else but the spiritual realm and different dimensions. So that makes it a lot easier for me to talk about it, because it's not as though anyone could tell me otherwise. And somebody else's view of not believing in that kind of stuff is a them problem, not a me problem. And I would just hope that at some point they realize and understand that that in itself is what makes it challenging for people to, I want to say, heal from their things. So the next step of my journey, I was led to go back and visit my friend who worked on the energy body. He was very good in the spiritual world. It was a very normal thing for him. And I had already seen him previously, so it wasn't a new thing to me. And he immediately was like, all right, you're completely blocked. Your heart center is completely blocked, shut off. Your spirit isn't even with you anymore. It's like you got a lot of stuff going on. And he suggested, and this was back when, plant medicine wasn't where it's at now. And he basically said, you need the help of ayahuasca. And I had heard of it, but I didn't really know what that meant. And I didn't know anything about how it worked or what it did or what she was as a plant medicine. And he literally said, look, you can do talk therapy for the next 20 years, but there's the spiritual side of what's happening that won't be affected by it. And you need to dive in and really get started with working on what's going on with your energy body. And I just I didn't think I had really any other options, to be honest. So I just started. And it wasn't long before my first ayahuasca ceremony was happening. And I basically didn't look back. I was starting them very intensely. We were doing like 3 ceremonies over a weekend, and I was doing them kind of every 6 weeks because of the intensity of what I was dealing with. I want to pause there and just, I guess, put a note to this part of the story and say, whilst I spent the next, 8 years intensively working with a range of plant medicines, not just ayahuasca, I want to say that I am not suggesting that it is the way, the only way, the miracle way, all of those things. Very often people who start talking about plant medicine ceremonies or ayahuasca, it's like, oh, this is the miracle cure, you have to do it, it changed my life. Now, I've been known to say those things, and I'm sure there's videos on my YouTube channel where I've said those words. And I actually, she did, that plant medicine did change my life in certain ways, but so did all the other work that I had to do. It wasn't just that one medicine ceremony. And I don't believe that's even possible. I believe it's possible in that moment to have an experience that's so amazing that it shifts the way you think of things. And it might change you in that moment. But what I learnt from doing many plant ceremonies in different medicines and in different circumstances and with different people, but what I really want to make sure you hear is that I'm not saying that ayahuasca or plant medicine or all of the, mushrooms, all of the things are miracle cures. It's a ceremony where once you have one ceremony, your life has changed and you'll forever be healed. That is absolutely not the truth. And if anyone is telling you that, any guru, new shaman, if any person or facilitator tells you that your whole life is going to be different after you've taken that ceremony or taken that medicine, please run for the hills and never speak to them again. That might seem a bit harsh, but they're selling you a golden ticket that won't get you anywhere. Because what they're not telling you is that it might show you your shadows and it might show you a way that you haven't seen before to be able to access what you need to do to heal. And that in itself can be amazing. You might see different dimensions. You might see the spirit world. You might see things that help you realize that there is this whole other realm out there. And it might give you a belief system that really helps you. However, unless you continue to do your own work on yourself, which only you can do, then, that idea of that ecstasy that you just had from the ceremony, or that realization, or that amazing moment that you had, will eventually pass, and your life will continue, and you will go back to the patterns that you had, and your shadows will get locked away again in that little cupboard that you never have to see again. And you'll wonder why, or you'll blame the medicine for not working. And these are the things that really break my heart, when people blame the medicines for things not working on them. You can do that with pharmaceuticals, absolutely, because they're not designed that way. They're designed to, help a symptom of something that is wrong with you. But that's not how plant medicines are designed. They're designed as, created as beings, all in their different sense. Plants have all their own different magical ways. All of them work on different things. And they are there to show you parts of yourself. If you're willing to let them show you, if you can let down your control issues long enough, if you can let go and surrender to them long enough, they will show you the parts of yourself that you have hidden and locked away. And their idea behind that is to show you that you don't need to do that, and that it's okay to let them out, and it's okay to love them, because they're parts of you that are unloved, right? They're parts of you that you wished could disappear because they made someone else unhappy. But what the plants are trying to show you is that they're parts of you that are you, and that if you love them, then you will feel whole. However, they will only show you these things. They won't do the pulling out of the cupboard or the loving them for you. You have to learn to do that. And that means you have to learn why you chose to put them in the cupboard in the first place. It also means you have to open yourself up to feeling love. And if you had a lifetime where you haven't wanted to access that part of yourself, that's going to be very challenging. And that means you have to do the work. You have to work on how to love yourself, how to accept yourself, how to feel worthy, how to know your value. And these are all things that make us as humans incredibly uncomfortable. Well, I know I'm speaking for myself. All of those things made me very uncomfortable. It's easier to live with those things in the cupboard if it means you don't have to look at them. And looking at them can be incredibly terrifying, especially if they've turned into kind of really ugly beastie things because they've become a character of themselves that want to stay there. That's been my experience. So I'm saying this because I don't want this to seem like I'm on here talking about plant medicine saying everyone has to go and do it. If I'm being 100% honest with you, which of course that's my plan, is that it's actually not for everyone. Not everyone can cope with the intensity of seeing your shadow beings all up front in that way. And that can be quite intense for people's nervous system. And I don't think there is enough education for people who are looking to do plant medicine to let people know that everyone is not going to be treated the same. The plant medicines treat you as an individual. Everyone is carrying a different amount of baggage and luggage and shadowy self, historically, ancestrally, previous lifetime baggage. Like, you don't know what all of that is, but you're going to know when you go and do a plant medicine ceremony, because it's all going to come up. So if you are someone who is just interested in seeing what all the fuss is about, or you'd like to go and see the pretty colors and the DMT effects, then if it becomes a challenging ceremony for you, don't blame the medicine. Really, it should be the preparation that you haven't done. Find the right people to help you prepare. Find the right people to host it for you. Unfortunately, there are not many qualified to actually be able to hold space for you. It's very disturbing at the moment. There are way too many people holding ceremonies that really have so much of their own shadow work to do that they should not be holding space for anyone. But like I said, that's a whole other video. I'm saying this because at the moment, the theme out there is that, well, if you haven't done ayahuasca yet, well, you haven't tried anything. Or if you haven't done psychedelics, well, who are you? I mean, you can't be a spiritual person if you haven't done psychedelics, which is absolute rubbish. And I do not want to support that theme or rhetoric at all. And they are not spiritual people who make judgments like that. That's spiritual ego. Psychedelics, plant medicines are a tool, are a resource to help certain people who need that kind of cleansing, that kind of special, spiritual connection, and held in a very safe container to do so. Anyway, it sounds like I'm just being a grumpy ass about it. I'm not meaning to be. It's just that after the amount of ceremonies that I have experienced, the good, the bad, the ugly, I have gone through the depths of hell with all the spiritual work that I have done. And I have gotten to a point where I'm very confident about my discernment on what I see, on what I've experienced, on what I felt through ceremonies. And I feel like there's a reason that I needed to go through all that. I didn't choose to, and I certainly didn't always enjoy it, that's for sure. If I'd have known what was ahead of me, would I do it again? Absolutely not. I mean, that's the reason why you don't know how long the journey is, right? Because technically you wouldn't do it. But, now I get it. Now I get that we're in a time and space where people need to really understand what it is they're walking into when it comes to healing. Because healing is really messy. It's really hard. And nobody really wants to do it, because it can be awful. Is it worth it on the other side? More than 1,000,000%. You are definitely a completely different person on the other side of it. And the confidence and authenticity and the ability to see people and hold people and know people is completely life-changing. But it's really, really hard. And when you don't know how long that tunnel is that you're walking through, you don't know how you're going to get there, you don't know who you're going to be on the other side. Well, right? Why would anyone do that? But the thing is, you are the master in all of this. In this kind of society that we're currently in, I'm going to say this spiritual plant medicine industry, unfortunately, it's getting really tacky. It's commercialized, it's capitalized. I'm not enjoying where it's going. I'm kind of stepping back and observing for a while because I was heading to be a part of that and I don't want to be. So I want to say to you, if you're still watching, that you are the master of yourself, of your own healing. You make the choices based on what feels right to you. Your spirit, your soul is always there, no matter what state you're in. It's always there. It's always hoping that you'll hear it and that you'll be able to be guided by it or where it wants to go, what help it needs. You're never ever on your own, even though many times you can feel completely isolated and misunderstood, and I get it. But I want to say to you, don't give up on yourself, on your own powers, on your own abilities to find the right people or ways or books or things to listen to that will help you just redirect, raise your vibration, and find the next step towards the end of that tunnel. So yeah, they're my final words to you in this video. I will, of course, be sharing more about what I learned throughout my ceremonies, what I learned about my ancestors, what I learned about my previous life baggage that I brought through with me this lifetime that I wasn't even aware that I needed to purge. And I'm happy to talk more about kind of ceremonies, what is a good ceremony, what is not so good ceremony, or even, what kind of facilitators you really want to look out for. And again, this isn't about saying that plant medicine is the only way. It's not. Breath work, meditation, it comes back to always those little things that will help you raise your vibration and learning that you are a spiritual being in a human body, in that order. And the power of that spirituality is incredible when you tap into it and when you allow it to have its voice. It is incredible. I look forward to sharing more with you. Feel free to leave comments, ask questions. I'm happy to continue these conversations with you. Always. Okay, love and blessings. Mwah.